Hello, and welcome to the All Things Narrative podcast, where we explore the relationships between the stories we love and the stories we live. I'm your host, Derrick Hatch, and let's get started. What's up, everybody out there in podcast land? We are back for another edition of Why We Love. Thank you so much for checking out the All Things Narrative podcast. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. We're glad to have you. And if you want to learn more about all the wonderful things we're doing, including our coaching programs, workshops, classes, check out allthingsnarrative.com. Follow us on social media. And yes, I am excited today. I mean, I'm always excited, but sometimes you get a guest in for these episodes that is just, you've got some history with, and there's just so much that they bring to the table that you just feel honored to be able to have them on this episode. And so, as we're going to continue this series that we're doing on genres and understanding, not just what these genres are that we find in stories, but the piece that perhaps is missing a lot of the time is, why do we care? Why do we gravitate so much to these different kinds of stories? And being able to think of our life story through the lenses of these different genres. And so with this idea of talking about the journey, and specifically talking about that in regards to action and adventures, there's somebody in my mind who's very synonymous with the concept of journey. And I want to introduce you all to him today. He is the great one and only Proverb Newsome.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here on the All Things Narrative podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Prov and I go way back. We have known each other. Well, I mean, we first made contact about 10 years ago.
Can't believe it's been that long.
Right? But Proverb actually used to be my supervisor. And, over the years, we've just become friends, gotten to be on his podcast, The Sojourn.
The Sojourn.
Right? So what I love about your podcast is this idea of you interviewing people and just being able to better understand their journeys, their stories, right? And so the journey metaphor is really profound to use in talking about our lives.
Sure, absolutely.
Because
especially in what you do.
Yeah, exactly. So being able to understand our lives as journeys, how does that help us to navigate challenges? How does that help us to have perspective when things in life aren't always going our way? And so I love how you did that on your podcast. You helped interview people and really creating that space for people's journeys to be told. Yeah. And that's inspired me a lot with when we have people on here talking about their stories as well.
Thanks, man.
So I think about you every time I interview someone.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Besides that, though, Proverb's got a wealth of other talents and things that he's a part of as well. So in addition to the work that you do with youth through Urban Youth Impact and through your church, you also are a hip-hop artist.
That's correct.
Who just dropped a new album in November.
I did. I dropped my third full-length album in November, the end of November. It's called Narrow Road Commuter. And man, I love it. It's like it's one of my favorite albums that I've done personally. Yeah. I'm really attached to it.
That's always a good feeling when you put so much time into your art and creativity, and then you're able to look at it as a finished product and go, wow.
Yeah.
This is one of my best.
Yeah, for sure.
And I agree with that. I think it is one of your best albums.
Appreciate
if not,
it,
maybe even my favorite.
Okay.
So
all right. Dope.
So, but I really enjoy it. So yeah, so it's good to have you on here. And we're going to dive into the next genre on our list. So just to kind of recap you and any of our listeners who maybe haven't heard our previous episodes in this series. So we started this back in February, and right now at the time this is coming out, this is April. So there'll have been 2 installments that are out. So the first one I did with my wife, Tori.
Okay.
And we did the romance genre.
Nice.
Yeah. So that came out on Valentine's Day. So that was, very appropriate all around.
Sure.
And then the last episode that I did with some of the guys, with Nick and Jason, we did this idea of what what I like to call the metaphysical journey.
Okay.
This is
That sounds deep, man.
Yeah, it is. And it's not really a genre of story that we tend to classify stories in, but once I describe it to people, they're like, oh, duh, there's lots of stories I could think of that are like this. And it's basically a story that focuses on some internal, inward transformation that's necessary to take place on a philosophical, religious, or spiritual level.
Okay.
So these are a lot of the biblical narratives. This is a lot of stories that are reflections on the meaning of life, right? So you think of like Pixar's Soul, or you think of Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life, or, you know, all different types of films that can do this. So I wanted to talk about that because that really emphasizes this kind of inward journey.
Yeah.
Now, there's a series of genres that emphasize the external journey, right? The journey of dealing with challenges that present themselves in different ways. And so this is kind of like the first of a three-parter of dealing with those. So today, we're going to really dive into the action and even, you know, adventure side of it as well. And then the next two ones that the guys are going to be back for, we're going to be dealing with fantasy and science fiction.
Okay.
So all genres that utilize the journey metaphor.
Nice.
And so this is kind of our kickstart of that.
Glad to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And not the metaphysical one.
Yeah, so let's kind of dive into this a bit and kind of we'll define it a little bit before we kind of give some examples, and we'll talk about what our personal life stories would look like through this.
Okay.
So there's a book that we're using to kind of inform these ideas called The Screenwriter's Taxonomy. It's a recent book that came out, I think in 2017.
Okay.
But what I really like about it is this whole conversation about understanding story genres can get really confusing. And this book, better than any other book I've read, really does a good job at classifying all these different things. And so they kind of have these different categories. So at the top, they have comedy and drama, not as genres in and of themselves, but actually as spectrums that you could take any story and it will have a certain amount of comedy and a certain amount of drama attached to it, right?
Okay, all right.
So the theory is that if you take any genre and you really analyze it and go deep into it, and like if something that you just say, oh, it's just a comedy, it's just a drama. No, there's probably something else in there.
Gotcha.
So
there's layers.
There's layers to it. And that's what I like about this book. So it's like comedy and drama are kind of the top layer of all stories. You could take any story and put it in and say, okay, 60% is comedy, 40% is drama.
Gotcha.
Then you move into the next level or the next layer, which is what are called the super genres. And he identifies 11 of these. So these are like the big genres that we tend to think of. So crime, horror, thriller, romance, in this case, action. Action would fall in one of those. And then there's 50 macro genres so you could have, and I'll give some examples with action today, but you can have like an action film, but the macro genre be the superhero film, right?
Yeah.
So superhero is a type of action film.
Yep.
And then you have micro genres, which there's like 100 of something of those.
Jeez.
And then you have, then you get into pathways and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So it's very comprehensive, which is what I love about this book.
Yeah, it sounds like dude spent a lot of time dissecting and analyzing? No, that's not a word.
Analyzing.
There it is. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Analyzing films and stuff like that. I had no idea. I just watch movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of us are.
Cool.
It's like, oh, we just take it in. But then what we like to do with All Things Narrative is we're exploring the why. Why do we really appreciate that? If we could better understand something, we can better understand ourselves and what it is about us that is coming alive
Yeah.
when we gravitate towards that. So in my Live a Meaningful Story program, in the first session, I ask people to think about their life as a genre. And so that's also one of the reasons why I want to do this series, because I get a lot of people that are like, I don't understand the genre. Like, I don't understand how I could look through my life story like that. So like the example I gave last time with the metaphysical journey is, we're both Christians.
Yeah.
So there is a way that you can tell your story through the lens of your journey with Christ, with God, right?
Yep.
And that we call that our testimonies.
Yeah.
So that would actually, what we're actually doing there is we are telling our life story as if it's a metaphysical journey.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now we can do that with any of these genres.
I never really thought about it like
we
that
can do
before.
it with a romance. So you can tell your life story through all the different romances that you've had. And in this case, you could do it with action. And so let me give kind of a definition of what is your life story like through the action genre.
Okay.
The action story is one filled with visceral, cathartic moments that test characters physically and mentally. We are invited to travel with our protagonist along a journey, with each escalating trial as they strive to defeat evil and bring about good. These stories allow us to identify with that protagonist, challenging us to ponder how we might handle their situation if we were in it. The action genre reminds us that internal transformation serves a larger purpose in helping us deal with the external challenges we face in life. The action thereby shapes one's identity, each action set piece serving as a turning point in the narrative. Meaningful action stories powerfully illustrate to us how there are battles worth fighting, beauties worth rescuing, and ultimately adventures worth living.
That's a great definition of an action movie. And that's from the book?
No, I came up with that.
You came up with that?
Yeah.
Nah, see, now I know why you graduated from the master's program. Yeah, man. No, that's dope.
Thanks.
That nails it, because when you watch an action movie, you can see everything you just described in there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do with these definitions, is kind of give that comprehensive, I mean, it can't always cover everything,
right,
but giving a comprehensive overview and applying that to our lives.
Dude, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah. Let's kind of give some examples of what this looks like.
Let's get it.
And we'll kind of see how this plays out here. So there's lots of great action films out there. Many of the greatest films of all time, or most popular films of all time,
are action, yeah,
would fall into this genre.
For sure.
Now, I want to give a disclaimer here. There were some genres, like the metaphysical journey. I know so many of those, and I pop them off like it's no tomorrow. So a lot of the big action genre franchises, I actually haven't seen.
Okay.
So I've never seen the Kingsman series, Kingsman Secret Service.
Nope.
I've never seen any Mission Impossible film.
Seen a few of them.
I've never seen John Wick or any of those.
Nope. Haven't seen that either.
I've never seen any Mad Max film.
One.
Okay.
I've seen one.
I've never seen any Fast and the Furious.
Seen a couple.
Okay. I've never seen any Bourne film.
Ooh, I've seen I think 2 or 3 of those.
Okay. Even my wife has seen those.
Those are dope, man. You got to dive into those.
Yeah.
Those are pretty incredible, yeah.
I've never seen any Lethal Weapon, never seen any Predator, and never any Edgar Wright film, which is embarrassing, because you're the story guy and I'm trying to keep up with all these great stories out there. But my first omission with this is that I don't tend to gravitate towards films that are pure action in and of themselves. I tend to like stories that are in other genres that have lots of action and heavy action set pieces in them, right?
That makes sense.
So the superhero genre is an example of that. But one of my favorite action films, which is considered by many to be, if you're in conversations about what are some of the greatest films of all time, this one's always going to come up in those lists.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear what it is.
It's called Seven Samurais.
Seven Samurais. Nope.
Have you heard of it, though?
Nope.
Wow. Okay.
Nope.
It's the it's an old one, and it's basically considered to be the first like kind of like that team up, like where they have to get basically there's like a town, like a village where they're facing a lot of troubles in different ways, and they want to bring the samurais in to help defend the village, to look out for them. And so the guy assembles the team.
Okay.
You know, it's like the first Avengers. Like assembling a team
They're all samurais,
and
though.
each samurai has a different personality,
Okay.
different strengths, different weaknesses, right?
Sounds
So
like
it's
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's actually a very foundational film for a lot. Like, how do you? It's ensemble. That's what I'm looking for.
Ensemble.
It's one of the first really big ensemble pieces.
Okay.
Where you bring in all these different actors to play all these different roles, and you kind of bring them all together and do a really cool story.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it's like, you know, some of the samurais, you know, they don't make it. Some of them die. So it's like, there's that sense of stakes and
risk,
no
reward.
one's safe. Yeah, risk and reward is a big part of action stories there. So that's a good one. I highly recommend that.
All right. I'll try to check it out, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's definitely one that's worth seeing for sure. Now, when we talk about that spectrum of comedy and drama, so let me give you an example of an action film that's heavy on the comedy side of it, action film that's heavy on the drama side of it.
All right.
So one that comes to mind with the comedy side is, have you ever seen 21 Jump Street?
So the movie I've seen bits and pieces of.
Okay.
I used to be a huge fan of the TV show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Love the TV show.
Great.
TV show is great.
So what did you really enjoy about it?
That the characters were young. At the same time I was young, you know, we were around the same age. They were doing some really cool adult stuff. Like they were, cops, like undercover.
Yeah.
And just had everything that a cop had access to, but as a young person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they were moving in these circles of other young people who had no idea who they were, but they knew.
Yeah.
And they were, so I just thought that was really, really cool. Like,
Was it funny? Like, was it more on the comedy side? Like in the
not like the movie. Not like the movie. It was a little bit more drama than the movie.
Okay, that's a good example of that spectrum there.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's the first time I ever saw Johnny Depp anywhere.
Johnny Depp wasn't. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, that must have been early Johnny Depp.
Early Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Super early.
Do you know what his first film ever was?
No, what was it?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Really? Did he get killed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That was his first film though.
Yeah.
But yeah, the film is hilarious.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
it's Lord and Miller, so I'm a sucker for their sense of humor.
Okay.
But
that's funny, man.
yeah, so that's one on the comedy end, but the show is on the dramatic end, so that's fascinating there. And then on the drama side of it, Die Hard. Which is easily considered by many to be one of the great action. Maybe some people will even put it at number one. Like, it is the greatest action film because it really changed things. Because, you know, at a time when a lot of the action stars were kind of these super macho, invincible figures, Bruce Willis in Die Hard was a little more vulnerable.
Yeah,
just
big
an
time.
everyday, ordinary cop.
That's right.
In this situation.
Yeah, no big muscles like Schwarzenegger or Stallone, just a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of tension, you know? There's he's got his
he's got a lot of obstacles to overcome.
Yeah, and he's got family and he's got it's a Christmas movie.
Is it though? that's the great debate. Is it a Christmas movie or isn't it a Christmas movie? Yeah. I think it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I think you can rock it at Christmas time.
Yeah. It always came, like, the events in the movie always happened around the time that it was Christmas.
Yeah.
In the film, so that it makes it a Christmas movie.
Right. Yeah. But that's definitely more on the drama. Would you say more on the drama side?
Drama and suspense.
Like dramatic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, drama and suspense, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's cool that you can see with any of these genres, you know, we did it with romance, did it with the metaphysical journey. It's cool that you can see this with action as well, that you can have some action films that are just hilarious and some that are just really suspenseful and dramatic. In talking about more of the super genres, so when you pair an action with another super genre, so like sci-fi is another one of those super genres that we're going to get into. So a good example that I could think of like an action that has a lot of those sci-fi elements in it. Did you ever watch G.I. Joe?
I haven't
Like,
seen that either.
But did you watch the show growing up?
Growing up, yes.
The animated
yes,
show?
Yes,
Yeah.
I watched that, yeah.
So that
yeah.
has some science fiction
Yeah,
elements
that was
into
cool.
it, you know,
Yeah.
with Cobra and the technology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So funny story in that show, because I watched the 80s show as well.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. The films,
I haven't seen them, man.
they're not worth your time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't think they're very good. They're entertaining. Like, they have some entertainment value to them.
Yeah.
But I think if you watch the show, it's just going to make you frustrated.
Okay.
Because it's like,
If it's not true to the first thing, then yeah.
well, it's like some things they get right, and it's really cool when they get it right. And then there's other things where it's just like they make Duke and the Baroness a couple. Like an estranged couple on each of the sides, right?
Okay,
Which I'm
okay.
like, that's weird. And they make the Baroness American, so she's not even Russian. So it's like, you know, there's just a lot of weird things in there.
Yeah.
But in the show, it's interesting though, because a lot of these action projects get made. Anything that involves military, like U.S. military, they have to get approval.
Really?
And, yes.
Didn't know that.
And so like the first Iron Man film with Robert Downey Jr.,
Yep.
that's actually the U.S. military was collaborating with the filmmakers there.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure like with Top Gun, like things which we'll talk
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
things like that,
definitely, yeah.
they do that with.
Yep.
But with G.I. Joe, there's a really funny story out there where in the G.I. Joe animated show, there was, I can't remember what episode it was, but there was some guy on the show who, like, in all these military conversations, they actually learned about something that was a classified military thing they put in the show.
He let the cat out of the bag?
Yes,
No
yes. And they
Wow.
got in so much trouble for that because it was like, oops, I thought that was just...
way. Wow. Dude, you can't let stuff out that's G14 classified.
Right.
You just can't do it.
Yeah, so I gotta look that up, what that thing is specifically. But yeah, I think that's hilarious. Sometimes you know that could happen.
Maybe it's a good thing you don't know, because if you repeat it, then you'd be letting it out again for the people that don't know about it.
Yeah, probably a good thing on this podcast I don't disclose any military secrets of any kind.
Pretty right on that. Yeah.
But on the so here's another super genre that you can pair with action
right.
is fantasy as well.
Okay.
So one that comes to mind here, Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's definitely more on the action end, but there's those fantasy elements that come under it, right? So with like the pirates and the Curse of the Black Pearl,
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah,
they all have those little bits of fantasy in them.
It's weird because you see like in that movie specifically, you see like Ghost walking around on a ship and stuff
Right,
like that. And you're
right.
like, okay, and he's still rocking a pirate's hat and clothes and stuff like that. It's just real. And then so you have that element that interacts with the present element, which is people that are alive, and then everybody's warring over something.
Right.
It's crazy, but it's super entertaining.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's that very swashbuckling,
Yep.
very
Big time.
adventurous. I rewatched The Black Pearl recently, and it's a good time.
Okay,
You know?
all right.
It's a good time.
Yep.
Do you have one of those in particular that you really enjoy?
I think I've only seen the very first one. Black Pearl was second, right?
Black Pearl was the first one.
Was it first? Okay,
Yeah.
so I've seen that, and then
Okay.
I've seen the one after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But
movie exploded too when it came out. You
it
know?
did. And I think probably so because, one, Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Two, it's like a big time deal at Disney. Like, have you ever been on the ride?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So like that was one of the first rides I rode when I went to Disney.
Right.
And so, you see all that stuff, and then you see an actual movie,
Right.
like a real life movie as opposed to animation or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like a big deal. Yeah.
Well, and it's fun too because it's one of those things where you watch it and you're just kind of like, I don't know anything else that's kind of like this right now.
Right. Yeah.
Because another series I'll talk about in a second, really had its heyday in the 80s. And it kind of reminds me of that in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And that's with pairing up here the super genre of action
Okay.
with a macro genre, which is adventure. So it's weird. That was one of the things I learned in the book was like, adventure's not one of the big genres.
It's a macro.
It's a macro, yeah. So, but a lot of films obviously have adventurous components to them. But when I think of like, because the definition of like an adventure film is basically protagonist goes to like an exotic place and has some sort of adventure they couldn't have in the real world, right?
Okay.
And typically, so that's a lot of action that gets paired up with action with adventure. And so one that I think of that does that really well is Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indiana Jones films.
Yeah. Those were incredible, man, because they're set so far apart in some cases.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they're about to do another one.
Yeah.
You heard about that,
The Dial
right?
of Destiny, right?
Dude, this guy, is he going to be able to do his own stunts this time? Or is
I don't
he gonna
know.
get
That's a good question.
Person or what? But I mean, I'll give him props just for being in the movie.
Oh, for sure.
Like, dude, he's like putting the fedora back on, the leather jacket back on.
Definitely
he's
the
back
last
in the game.
one.
Yeah.
Definitely the last one for him.
Well, we don't know because
We don't
I
know.
thought the last one was the last one.
Right.
You know, but so
They need redemption after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Well, and you know, the
sure.
filmmaker, the director of that is James Mangold.
Really?
Phenomenal filmmaker.
Now, who did all the other ones? Wasn't it? Who was it?
I mean, Steven Spielberg.
Okay. Yeah, Spielberg. That's
But
right.
I like James Mangold. So one of my all-time favorite films is one of his, which is Logan.
Logan
And
was great.
he's very good with character drama,
Yeah, Logan was
which I
great.
think is like the one thing that's kind of been lacking in the Indiana Jones films because it's a lot of spectacle,
Yeah.
but not a lot of. I mean, they tried to do a little bit of character drama with The Last Crusade with him and his father.
Yep, I remember that one. Yep.
But James Mangold is a character drama whiz. You know,
Well,
he's
it'd be
really good
interesting.
at that. So I hope that Disney and Lucasfilm really let him lean into that when he made this film.
Yeah,
that would be really, really
it'll be
cool.
good to find out some stuff that we don't know about
Yes.
the main character on this one.
Yeah. I rewatched Raiders of the Lost Ark recently, though, and there was a lot of stuff that I kind of forgotten, like, oh, wow, like, that's cool. You know, it had been forever since Tori saw it, and so we get to that scene where the Ark of the Covenant opens up, and you have all these people melting, and Tori was like, what? And then this was this running joke in our house where we say, like, that's 80s PG.
Nice.
Right? Because you get all these movies from the 80s that you're like, oh, it's PG. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Inside Out is PG.
Yeah.
Inside Out,
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Right, yeah. It's just-
don't really go together.
No, they don't.
But I'm like, when I watched that effect, I was like, geez, I forgot about how brutal some of these. But
people melting.
yeah.
PG.
But you know, action and adventure films are great showcases for those special effects,
Oh,
and
yeah,
especially
the best.
practical effects like that. Because
Yeah.
I think the trouble now is a lot of the times we try to outsource with CGI and we'll do that in post and all that stuff. But when you see like an action film that has genuinely riveting and well done practical effects,
Yeah.
I mean, how cool. is
Because
that?
it just seems like it's natural, like it's a natural fit. It seems weird when you got a great story and then the CGI effects and all the post-production.
Well, it takes you out of the experience.
Yeah, it takes you out of the experience, and it just seems like that doesn't belong here. you
Right.
know? And it minimizes the great writing and the great acting that's happening.
When those films first came out, what was your reaction to them, like back in the 80s?
Man, I was so young, and then like most times, I see them like a long time after they drop, right?
Sure.
So, but I thought it was great. Harrison Ford was incredible. I frequently remember when he was covered in all the was it rats or was it spiders?
You talking the snakes?
Snakes.
Yeah, the snake pit.
No. I'm like, dude, that would have to be a stuntman. I would not be doing that.
Well, there's a lot. And I'm like, those ain't CGI snakes. Those are fake snakes there, They're really moving. And
it was horrible. So I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I could never do that.
Well, remember what I said, though, in the definition on action about one of the things that's interesting to do with action films is we imagine ourselves in those situations. Like very naturally, we'll be like, okay, if I was in the snake pit right now, how would I handle it?
I wouldn't be in there. I wouldn't be in there. Just plain and simple. Cut. All right. Stand in. You're up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in there.
To get dropped into that would be something else there.
That would be horrible. It's like Fear Factor, but like times.
Yeah, it is. It is
60.
like the original Fear Factor. Yeah, Fear Factor is a good show because I did that all the time in there. I was like, oh, would I eat that? Would I?
Ugh.
Oh man,
Hissing Madagascar cockroaches. Yeah, that's not a good look either.
Yeah, no way.
You know.
Yeah, but that's a good series though. You know, that's a good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Solid.
I liked it a lot.
There's a weird odd and even thing. So it's like with Indiana Jones, like the first one is great. Second one,
Not too great.
I don't like the second one, Temple of Doom. But then the third one is good again.
Yeah.
Then the fourth one's terrible. So hopefully the fifth one is, it's an odd number. Hopefully it's
an
good.
odd number. All right.
So we'll see.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah. So a lot of these examples that we're giving, one of the things that they all have in common is that if you look at the structures of the film, so in every episode we've done, we've kind of done like okay, how do you know if a film is primarily of this genre? So like most films have romances, for example.
Yeah.
But the way that you could tell a film where it's really a romance at its heart, at its core, is the main question you're asking throughout it, will they get together?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the giveaway, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's just a side plot, it's not the central conflict.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
The metaphysical journey is very similar in that is the central conflict that the character is going through something internal on a philosophical, religious, or spiritual level, right? So with the action, the way that you can spot an action is really in the structure. So most action films are structured around opening set piece, right? So if you think of like the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution, that kind of pyramid that you see, in a lot of story structure charts, you could go through each of those 5 points, and usually there's an action piece around there, right?
Yep.
So there's some sort of introductory action piece. There's an action piece. Then that brings the conflict a little further. There's an action piece in the middle that tends to really up the stakes. Maybe it looks like there's no point of no return for the character, right? Maybe things look hopeless. And then you've got the falling action. You've got another action set piece that kind of is building towards the climax, but it's a result of the middle. And then you've got your final action set piece. So you see that quite a bit in all these stories here. Something that you kind of see in common. I mean, not perfectly like that, but really action films are built around the action set pieces. That's kind of the way that they structure and whatnot.
Yeah, you're right about that, though. I mean, with what you're saying, if you're always asking, will they get together? Obviously, it has to be romance, right? Or, hey, will they complete the mission? Obviously, it's probably action.
Yeah,
adventure,
absolutely.
Right?
And you when you find yourself waiting for that next moment of like, okay, when's the next big moment, big action piece, right? And you're really seeing that journey laid out there. Yeah. And you're kind of seeing each of those pieces represents a different aspect of the journey because they're turning points. That's what action set pieces, that's what good action set pieces are supposed to do. They're supposed to be turning points for the plot and for the character as well.
Yeah.
Whether it's things going closer towards the protagonist way or closer towards the antagonist way. Right. And that good tension that you're building throughout. And you can even do action, you can do this and find this even in films that are primarily aimed towards families.
Yeah,
so
sure.
One of the movies, I remember this conversation we had a long time ago.
We had?
And you and me.
Okay, all right.
And you said you did not like this movie.
Oh, man, I don't even know what it is.
But this is a good example of where you see that kind of action adventure genre for young people, for children. I mean, I enjoy it a lot as an adult, and that's the Lego movie.
Yeah, no, I wasn't feeling it.
What do you not feel about that movie? Tell me about it.
Oh, man, I don't know, dude. I just didn't like it.
But everything's awesome.
Yeah, that's what they want you to believe. That's not, my context was like, I got to get out of here. But I was there with my, like, at the time, 2 small kids who were like, loved Legos. Like, they had like stacks and stacks and stacks at home. We'd taken them to Legoland. On one of my kids' birthday, we actually stayed in the hotel on the property. And that was cool. That was cool. But the movie, man, was like the movie for me was like a slow drag of long nails across a mile-long chalkboard. Just wasn't, I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Wow.
Yeah. Couldn't do it.
Wow. Even with Batman in there, it couldn't save it.
Batman couldn't save it, dude.
Wow.
Because like it wasn't even Batman. It was some, I couldn't do it. Slow drag, bro. Long nails.
Yeah.
Mile-long chalkboard.
Yeah. I understand. I think the movie starts off strong.
Yeah.
I think it has a middle section that does drag quite a bit, but then it's got what do you think of the finale with spoiler alert with Will realizing that it's his son playing with Legos and Will Ferrell, the dad was just, this obsessive collector gluing everything together. And then
yeah, that was kind of, you know what that reminded me of? It was weird because like when it happened, so a few minutes ago we were talking about how something like jars you out of the story. And okay, I wasn't even in the story.
Yeah.
But I was jarred by that. I'm like, what does that have to do with what I just saw? And then it connected, but it was like, it was still weird.
Yeah.
The coolest part about the exposure was that it was Will Ferrell. That was the coolest thing for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, it was like, it just jarred
didn't
me
tug
out of
on
it.
your heartstrings?
No, not even. Not even yelling. No, no. I wasn't feeling it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
man.
like, what?
That film utilizes the chosen one trope. Where it's like, you're the chosen one. You're the one who is prophesied about, who's going to make things right.
Like
And
Matrix.
You do see this. And so if we're talking about action and we're talking about fantasy and sci-fi, that trope gets used a lot in these kind of stories with the idea of the journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
So usually in these action stories, there is one man or one woman or one man and one woman, one person basically who can set things right again. The world falls into some sort of chaos and disorder, and it's up to our protagonist, the hero of our story, to make things right again.
Yeah, and that's a lot to put on one character, but you do see that over and over again. You see it with Neo and the Matrix trilogy.
Yeah.
You see it pretty much every Superman movie.
Every
Superman movie ever, you see that. Yeah. And, since we're both people of faith, obviously the parallel is Christ and all that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you even get since you brought up the Bible, you even get narratives in the Bible that I would classify as action narratives. Like we think of Samson, right? And we think of what is his big moment of redemption. It's that moment
at the end,
right? And it's realizing that in order to win, he has to make a sacrifice, and he has to bear the weight of his consequences.
Literally.
And a lot of these action people, they're aspirational in the sense that there's things that they do that we want to be like, but there's also things about them that are flawed. And I think that's one of the reasons why we like a lot of these action. So like here's a great example of one that's paired with the spy espionage macro genre. And that's, of course, 007 himself, James Bond, right?
Yeah. I love James Bond.
So I had, again, I'm coming around. I had never seen a James Bond film my entire life until recently.
Which one did you see?
I finally saw Dr. No. I said, let me start in the beginning, right? See how this character is introduced.
You got a lot to catching up to do, man.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that they're fairly similar overall.
Yeah, kind of. But near the end, let me just say this to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so Dr. No, Sean Connery, right?
Yes.
Good Bond.
Yes, which is why I wanted to start with him because for classic cinema, he is considered to be like the definitive Bond. So I want to do From Russia with Love.
Okay.
Want to do Goldfinger, those early Bond classic.
Yeah.
And then after that, I don't know what I want to do.
So Timothy Dalton, it was. I mean, I'm a fan of the Bond genre and the espionage genre, but he was okay.
Okay.
And then Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
I liked Pierce because I was a Remington Steele fan, and Remington Steele was a show on TV where he was a PI. He was just the face and the name of the PI,
right?
But this other lady did all the work. So because he went from that to Bond, I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bond did not become definitive for me until Daniel Craig was Bond.
Casino Royale.
Yeah, Casino Royale.
Casino Royale is also considered by many to be one of the
No
great
Time to
action
Die.
films.
And then there's one in the middle of, there's like 3 to 4.
Skyfall,
right. Skyfall, okay. No Time to Die, Casino Royale, and No Time to Die. Dude, he was the definitive Bond because he was like, he broke character. He went rogue. He went against M. He suffered great loss.
Yeah.
And just, was not the keep a stiff upper lip and carry on type dude. He was like, nah, I'm going to get some revenge and I'm going to do it on Britain's dime, if you will. Right. And those are phenomenal films. The stunts are incredible. The way that you can see him go through all the layers of grief that he's suffering is great.
Yeah. There's definitely layers too. And I don't know if like let me ask you something. What does Pam think of the James Bond films?
She could care less.
Yeah. I think this has got to be because my wife didn't like him either.
Yeah.
But here's what I tried to help her understand. And this is kind of what I feel. Maybe you feel the same way as well. James Bond is a very masculine character, but a masculine struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So like the idea of being so good at what you do, right? Because we all look at James Bond and we're like, wow, I want to be that good, that competent, that excellent at whatever I do. Because he does everything with excellence. And it's about him facing these challenges that are going to push him to be better. That's what a lot of guys that's what we want out of life. But there's also like certain struggles. You get so into what you're doing that you find it hard to connect with people. So why does every Bond film have a different Bond girl?
Right.
Yeah. He can't hold this. The relationships are so, they're not stable.
Yeah.
And there's this, I'm sure there's trust that's a part of that. There's that lack of vulnerability. In the first movie I saw alone, how many times he got betrayed and, I'm just like, geez. And that's your whole way of life.
Yeah, that's
is
the lens
like
you
that.
see through.
You can never rest. And so it's like, well, I see why he drinks a lot and why he tries to find pleasure in these very fleeting things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's a fascinating character because as guys, I could see that being a very genuine thing that a lot of us men can fall into.
Yeah. He sees, I think as a character, James sees every relationship as transactional. Right.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the Bond girls. Right. It's just transactional. They happen to be there. He has a mission to accomplish and, something happens and he meets, they get together and then it's over.
Right,
or something happens, they get together and then she's involved in it somehow.
Right.
On the opposite side of him.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they get together and she's involved in it on the same side as him.
Sure.
But from another country. So, but it's in either event, it's all transactional for him, right?
Yeah.
It's never
that's a good
meant
word
to,
for it.
It's never meant to have any substance or go any deeper than what you see. Because like you said, has a mission to complete. He doesn't know who he can trust. Even though he's with this person, he still doesn't even know if he can trust him. He's just with them for the moment and then he's getting back to work.
Right.
But that changes later in the series.
Oh, okay.
You will see.
All right.
And to his demise, I should say.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting journey there.
Yeah.
And speaking of interesting journeys, all right, so I got another action one I got to bring up. This is probably the last example I'll give here.
All right.
But I got to bring this up.
Let's hear it.
Top Gun.
Top Gun. I love Top Gun.
Okay, so I am going to say something right now. Please don't hate me for this. I had never seen the first Top Gun until a few months ago.
I can't hate you for that, dude.
And I didn't like it.
Oh, there it is right there. There it is.
I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was a bad movie by any means.
What didn't you like?
A lot of it is taste. Okay. A lot of it is like, I feel like we don't get a lot of, like we're rushing our character moments for the sake of getting to the next big action thing.
Okay.
I just have a hard time in general with just the super overly cocky, confident protagonist that doesn't really seem to learn much. So I don't know. It's okay. Like, I didn't think it was bad. And I understand why people like it. I mean, the action is incredible.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Okay.
It wasn't a story that just gripped me a lot, you know?
All right.
But there is a but to this.
Let's hear the but.
So don't you know.
Let's hear the but. I gotta hear the but. I can't believe you didn't like it.
The but is Top Gun Maverick.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dissect what you just said about why you don't like part one. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So Maverick, central character.
Yes.
Like you said, over cocky, just out of this world, arrogant.
Right.
Because he's the best. He's always been told he's the best. He's always could prove he was the best.
Right.
And, you know, his sidekick, his wingman, Goose, is right there for it all, right? Right there for it all. But he's only cocky because he's with Maverick, right? He on his own, he's just a regular guy, just chilling, you know, lucky to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Maverick, though, is a kind of a complex character because he's like in the shadow of his dad. Who had his own, you know, legacy in the Navy, did great, but there's some darkness that surrounds how he died, right?
Yeah.
And so Maverick doesn't know any of that. Nobody will tell him anything, and he's just in the dark. So he's chasing that. That's chasing him, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of why he's arrogant, because he wants to be better than his dad.
Right.
But in his arrogance, he doesn't learn a thing until something really bad happens. And then he's forced, like you said, you know, the apex, he's forced to take a good long look at himself.
Yeah.
Why he does what he does. Like, and not only why he does it, but why he keeps repeating it even though he knows it's bad.
Right.
Right? And then he finally comes to grips with like, okay, I'm good and I probably am the best, but I could be a better person as well as being a great pilot.
Yeah.
And so when that comes full circle, that's where we see the movie kind of take off again, right? Because there's this mission at the graduation and he is off and running, and I won't spoil the end in case you haven't seen it, but he comes full circle and he's a little bit more humble at the end of the movie than he was at the beginning of the movie.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's all it's taste for me. It's just taste.
I still didn't win you over with that argument, did I?
No, I agree with all that.
Okay,
and I think that's all true.
Okay,
that's all there.
all right.
It's just taste.
All right.
But Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
It was different. It
was
very
way
different
because what we see is Maverick years older.
Yes.
Because they were shot, like one was in 84 or something like that. And then this is like 2022 or 23.
Yeah.
And so there's a vast amount of space in between it. Yet Tom Cruise looks exactly the same.
Yeah, which is
weird.
funny.
It's weird. But yeah, so we pick up on Maverick's story where he's older. He's still got some of the, you know, the old Maverick swag. You know, it hasn't completely left. He still likes to do things his own way and operate as a Navy officer, but not, you know what I'm saying? But he's definitely lived more life. He's definitely humbled. And even this story humbles him more.
I'm a sucker for the aging mentor pouring into the next generation type of story. And once I saw that this is what it was going to be, I was like, oh, I think I'm really going to like this.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I make predictions all the time when I'm watching things. So I'm like, okay, so I bet you Miles Teller's character, he looks like Goose. Okay, they're probably related. I wonder if he's going to be like this really cocky guy, kind of like Maverick, and he has to talk to his younger self. And I was like, oh, wait, no, that's not what they're doing. They're doing something even better.
Yeah.
And I found the character work, the drama, the conflict. I found everything way more interesting because as an action film, the central conflict was it was like a three-way kind of conflict between Maverick, Rooster, and his own guilt.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's not, it kept the action beats in the sense that we have a mission and this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And you know, it had that structure, but I think a lot of reasons why people gravitated towards this film so much was that it really had a good, strong conflict
Yeah.
that was rooted in character.
Yep.
And that's my favorite type of action films.
Yeah.
Is when you can do that so well. And that's what I feel like this did better than the first one.
I hear
where
you.
I
can hear that.
genuinely found that conflict so interesting. And my whole thing was like, is Maverick gonna die? Is Rooster gonna die?
You didn't know.
Yeah, and
know.
I was legit wondering. There's no sequel coming, so
That we know of.
Right.
Right.
So it's like anything could happen in this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I found it very compelling and very, very well done.
So you said there was three main conflicts, right?
Well, three people in the central three things.
Yeah. So let me offer up a fourth one.
Okay.
You.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the first one, Maverick had a problem with authority. You're like, can I do a flyby? No.
Right.
And he flies by and
Right.
dude wastes his coffee all over himself repeatedly.
Yeah.
He gets pulled into the office, reamed out repeatedly in the first one.
Right.
So the second one, you see a more aged Maverick, seasoned Maverick, ready to mentor somebody, whatever.
Right.
But he still has that issue with authority, right? So John Hamm's character and him butt heads completely all the way out throughout the movie.
Right.
John Hamm's character is about to shut the mission down.
Right.
And he goes there to shut it down, and Maverick's on a plane when he's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And in the plane that he's not supposed to be on, right?
Yes.
Talking to him over the communication thing.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, he still has a problem with authority. So there's that and the three ones you mentioned.
That's
right?
true.
So
Yeah.
But I love it. I love it, man. What a dope mission to put them in as well. Because it's pretty much everybody was like, well, it can't be done. And so since it can't be done, let's get Maverick to plan it out because we want him out of the way anyway, right?
Right.
But he couldn't go out of the way. They couldn't just off Maverick because of Iceman.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good, solid story.
Love it.
Really good action. Didn't look like a lot of CGI. Probably looked really practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I learned about that movie?
What?
So Tom Cruise is he's a little bit out there, man.
Yeah.
He's a little bit out there, right?
Absolutely. 100.
So
100.
He does all of his own stunts, man.
Yeah.
He actually owns a plane. So I think in some scenes he's actually flying a plane.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I don't know how he does it, but he does like probably 90% of his own stunts in movies.
Wow.
Like I recently saw him getting ready for the new Mission Impossible movie.
Right.
And he's riding a motorcycle off a ramp off the side of a mountain and parachuting down. Like it's actually him. It's not a stunt man. It's actually Tom Cruise. And then there's one where he was actually strapped to the side of a plane in a Mission Impossible movie, and the plane took off, and he's like multiple thousands of feet in the air, strapped to the side of a plane. So it's just
he's probably just an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, man.
Like, great. How can I weave this into my career?
It makes for great movies though. Makes
it does.
for great action movies. I mean, I could never do it, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Tom Cruise, but I am a big fan of
what he produces.
I'm a big fan of like what he can do though.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and Maverick was it was very hyped up for me by a lot of people, and I was like, okay, I see it now. I see the hype. It's real. It's good.
It is.
It's very good. Very good film.
Yeah, the story is super integrated.
It's like I was like telling Tori, this is like the Spider-Man No Way Home for Top Gun fans. You bring all these people back, and you got Val Kilmer. The music cracked me up that it started with the same 80s music.
Yeah. They didn't update it at all. It's just the same thing.
It's just the same thing. I'm like,
Kenny
okay.
Loggins getting paid yet again.
Yeah. So good though. So that's a lot of examples that we've kind of given and gone through. Like one of the things we're not going to get into specifically in this episode is the superhero genre, because that's a whole other animal in and of itself, right? So we'll do eventually there'll be a separate episode on that. But let me ask you something.
Yeah, let's hear it.
What superhero film do you think has the best action?
Ooh, because I don't even know that I've seen them all. Like,
But you've probably seen a lot of the big ones.
Yeah, I've seen the big ones, man, and I like the big ones. There's elements about all of them that I like. Okay, so let's talk about the first one that DC did with the Hall of Justice. So it was Spider-Man. I'm sorry, it was Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Right? Remember?
You mean the Batman v Superman, or
that one,
the Zack Snyder's Justice League?
No, not that one. The
Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Okay.
When Superman was dead, they brought him back, and he was like, did not know who he was.
That's Justice League, where they bring him back.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So he didn't know who he was, and he was like about to turn on his friends and like just destroy them, like literally destroy them, and they had to like hold him back. I thought that was awesome because we would have never seen that, or maybe I don't know.
Right.
But I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So the good action there between Batman and Superman.
Yeah. The Zack Snyder's Justice League, that 4-hour cut is so good.
Yeah, I haven't seen all 4 hours.
I mean, you'll never watch the theatrical Justice League again.
Oh wow. Okay.
I think yeah. It's amazing how of two different versions of a film can be so different.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think one of the top tier comic book films.
Yeah.
Regular Justice League theatrical version,
way down there.
One of the worst.
Yeah.
One of the worst.
Yeah. So I like that, and then I totally like Captain America, the first one. Winter Soldier, great action because not a lot of
Winter Soldier's got great action scenes.
Just incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff. And then pretty much any Spider-Man with extended, elongated scenes of him swinging.
Yes. The web's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I love them.
Yeah, I love when you can feel the weight in the web swinging scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, man. The fact that they could bring that. I mean, I remember watching the first one, the first of the Tobey Maguire trilogy, and they brought it to life in the films, and just seeing him swing for in the suit for the first time was like epic for me.
Yeah, same here.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, I've lived long enough to see this happen.
Yeah,
that was insane.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of good action in superhero films. I still remember the whole crazy sequence in The Dark Knight in the middle of the film where they're chasing like through the tunnels.
Yeah.
And then the car flips over and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So much of those scenes where I'm just like, wow, that's real.
Yeah.
They really did that.
Yeah.
Oh, they really did that too.
Yeah, that was insane. That was an insane piece of film too. It was crazy. And the cool part about the Dark Knight trilogy, because I haven't seen any Batman movies after that, was they brought the story into it with his parents and all that stuff.
Right.
And, you could see why he's dark, why he kind of has some issues, right? I once heard a guy say, Batman's not really a superhero. He's a guy with issues. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
It's trying to have mastery over those things, right? Because again, that whole idea of the journey is that the journey is not in vain. When you go on a journey of some sort and you face these different trials and challenges that are action set pieces, you think about your life, right? We all would have what I call turning points in our lives. These moments that are filled with action. They are filled, and a lot of action is decisions. These little decisions that can make an enormous amount of difference and carry weight to them, right? So when you think about your life journey and you think about your life as action, what's one of those moments that comes to mind for you that's just a really huge action-packed turning point in the journey, in the adventure of life?
Ooh, man, there's so many. I mean, one that jumps off the page right away is probably my freshman year as a college student. I was leaving home to live somewhere else for the very first time. It was, thousands of miles away. It was like a 13-hour car ride away, right? My dad had just passed away. I was a high school senior graduating. My dad had just passed away the same year. And so I was leaving my mom behind. I didn't quite know if I was going to have enough money to even stay at college.
Wow.
But I was driving 13 hours to find out. Yeah. So did that, got there. It worked out, barely, but it did work out. And it was just like getting there, going through all the orientation stuff, wondering in the back of my head, if this doesn't work out, like I have to really like get back in my car and drive 13 hours home.
Right.
Like after my mom has sent me off,
Yeah.
my church has sent me off.
Wow.
Everybody thinks that I'm going to college.
Right.
And then I'm going to show back up with a full car being like, I'm back.
Yeah.
You know, and it would have been a horrible, devastating type of thing to go through, but it all worked out.
Yeah, because that's the idea of going on the journey. Like you see the hero's journey. The whole idea is that when the hero is sent off, there is something that they are meant to get, whether it's a piece of knowledge, an item, right, a MacGuffin, like different things that they can bring back to their hometown, to their place, so that way they can enrich the lives of those people there.
Yeah.
So I think of college as a great metaphor and a great experience that parallels that, right? You go off to college, you go on this journey, and then the idea is that when you come back, you know, into, you know, quote unquote, like the real world, you know, you come back and you offer something of value to the world again. So that's why that's one of the most crucial moments, I think, for your life, is you're on your own, right? You've learned all that you've needed to learn from the village. They've instilled these things in you. Now you go off on your own, you do this, and you come back and find some way to better the stories of those around you.
Right.
And that's the journey right there, right?
Yeah. It was a launch point for me, and college is a launch point for a lot of young people, I think.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for the first time, maybe in some cases they're out on their own. You know, they have to have their own budget. They have to do their own laundry. They have to, in some cases, make friends from nothing because they don't know anybody where they're going.
Yeah.
All this stuff, they got to find a job, way to support themselves. And then on top of all that, you got to study and stay in school, right? And so, that was a huge point for me, man. I clearly, vividly remember that 13-hour drive because I was in a 1982 Firebird with no AC.
Wow.
Driving in August from Florida to Birmingham, Alabama.
Dang.
With like 95 plus degree heat and LL Cool J banging in the background.
Now that's
crazy.
A story.
Yeah, it was awesome though. It all worked out. But like you said, had I been forced to come home, right?
Yeah.
I would have never worked at WVSU, which was our college radio station. Never would have got that experience.
Yeah.
Never would have came back after school and worked at Way FM for 13 plus years here in South Florida. With no radio knowledge, and I never would have probably would have still did music, but it just wouldn't have taken off as fast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, those sliding doors slide all the time, and it could slide for your blessing, or it could slide for maybe a harder road. But God is in both of them, in either way. But it worked out.
And now you're in your Top Gun Maverick phase where now you're imparting that to the next generation, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Humbling them.
Yeah, well, yeah, and still getting humbled myself.
Still getting humbled,
Yeah. But unlike Maverick, I can't fit back into the jacket anymore. So. Need a whole new jacket.
That's okay. That's okay.
Man.
Well, Proverb, as we're closing out, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Always a blast, bro.
Yeah, talking about the journey.
The journey, man.
The journey of life. And so that's actually, I don't know if I've told you this before, but that's actually a narrative practice.
Really?
Is the journey of life. I do that in my Live a Meaningful Story program where we pull all the pieces of our story together and we conceptualize it as a journey.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, one of the most powerful things that I get to see. And one of my favorite moments is when they get to tell their story as the journey of life.
Nice.
It's incredible.
That's dope.
If you want to learn more about that, check out allthingsnarrative.com. And if you want to learn more about Proverb Newsome, where can they find you? They can find me very simply at proverbnewsome.com. That's proverbnewsome.com. And thanks for having me on. And I would like to say on the Sojourn, life is a journey. Enjoy the trip. That's it right there. That's it right there. Well, thank you, Prov. And this is your friendly narrative practitioner, Derrick, signing off, saying thank you. And until next time, take care.